One of my favorite little hacks or techniques to use with beer and soda cans is to make these little tiles to do art and projects with. And today I'm going to be playing with some different mounting tapes, widths and sizes and thicknesses to make several different little tile shapes using some scraps of my aluminum cans. So I've got, I think this is 1-inch wide tape from 3M that's clear. I've got some alien tape, which is just a little bit wider, maybe 1/4 of an inch wider than this 3M tape. I have some 3M 1-inch square pieces of mounting tape, and these two items are from Dollar Tree. So they make a tape that is, I guess, 1/2 inch wide, a little over 1/2 inch wide, and it's a thinner material than the other ones that I'm going to be working with. And then they also make these foam pre-cut pieces of tape, which are kind of a rectangular shape. So I'm going to be making some little sticker tiles with my beer and soda cans from all of these different materials. So the first little tiles are the ones I have made the most. If you've seen some of my other projects, you know I've made a lot of tiles from these Dollar Tree little rectangular pre-cut mounting tape pieces. And the great thing about these is that you don't need a very large piece of aluminum, so I save all of my scraps, and I've used a lot of my scraps to make these little tiles. So to make these tiles, all you need to do is just remove one of your little mounting squares and place it on the aluminum. And you want to leave enough space for your scissors to get between the pieces. So you're going to want to be able to trim off all around all of the edges. So once you have all of your mounting squares in place, you can just go ahead and trim right around the edge of the tape. I like to cut all of my pieces apart first, but it's easy just to butt your scissors up against the edge of the mounting tape and then just trim off the excess aluminum. And then you have a little rectangular tile. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you've probably seen some of the projects that I've made with these tiles. I've used them to cover little yogurt containers and bigger containers. These are some little catch-all bowls that I made with different colored tiles. Here's a little cardboard picture frame that I made using the tiles. I covered a tennis ball and a smaller ball with these tiles to make some sort of fun decor. And I used some tubes to make little napkin rings with the tiles. I covered a box to make it a little more decorative, just covered the box lid. And I've also made a gazing ball and a larger planter with the tiles, and even a cat bed. And what I love about these tiles is that they're very small, and all of these things are kind of flexible if you need to bend them a little bit to shape them to your form that you're sticking them to. But these tiles are just small enough that they are just really easy to work with if you are doing any contouring shapes like I did with the gazing ball and the cat bed. So they just work well if you have to bend the metal just a little bit to fit the form that you're using them on. Next up, I'm going to be working with the super glue mounting tape from Dollar Tree, and I thought this would be sort of a fun experiment because this allows you to do longer pieces and sort of borders and different shapes like that. So my idea is to make a magnetic picture frame with the aluminum and the mounting tape. And I have saved a lot of these just kind of cheapy advertising magnets that I've received over the years. So I'm going to be using that and some scraps of my aluminum. And I've already cut 3 of my pieces to make my little frame. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my last piece. So I'm just going to have a frame that kind of fits together. like that. And what I want to do is make sure that I have a piece of tape that's just the width of my little frame here, or a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to stick it to my magnet, kind of line it up on the edge here. Be sure you're sticking it to the printed side and not the magnetic side. I did that a few times. So now I'm just going to trim right along the tape again. And then I can remove the backing from the tape. And I'll just stick it to my aluminum piece. And I'm going to leave a little edge all the way around again because I want to be able to trim right up to the magnet and the tape. So I have a nice clean straight edge. So I've already figured out my lengths and miters and things, so I can just put the two magnets together, and that way I know I have a mirror image for my top and bottom piece. And I'm just going to trim off my excess. And then to hook this all together, I'm just going to be using a little bit of E6000 glue. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on I have a piece of parchment paper here. I'm just going to put a little bead of glue on the parchment paper. And I'm going to kind of tap all of the edges of my pieces in the glue, making sure I get that tip piece in. I'm going to try not to get too much excess on your pieces, but you want enough to make sure that it sticks together. And this glue takes a little while to set up, and so you have some time to work with it. So I'm just going to make sure I'm working on kind of a clean section of my parchment paper, and I'm going to just push my sections together. And then I'll let my glue cure, and I'll have a little magnetic frame. So here's one that I made that it's had a little time for the glue to set up, and you can see that it's holding together and ready to go on the fridge. Next up is the 3M 1-inch square mounting tape tiles, and if you saw my last project, you know that I made a giant mirror and framed it out with these little tiles. They are quite a bit bigger than the little pieces from Dollar Tree that I used on a lot of other projects. So they're not quite as easy to shape around objects because they are a little bit bigger. But the intriguing thing to me is that they are actually square, whereas the Dollar Tree mounting tape pieces are more rectangular shaped. So of course you can just work with the squares, but I got to thinking you could also carefully cut from corner to corner to get more of a triangular shaped piece. And then you can make all sorts of different sort of fun quilting pattern shapes to make some different designs. I'm just working on covering up an old Kleenex box because I like to have this on my working table just for little tiny pieces of trash. So I'm decorating it. I used sort of a block pattern on this side, and I'm using the pinwheel pattern on this piece. And then you can see on these pieces I actually did cut my triangles a second time to have really small triangular shapes. So the square mounting tape offers some fun geometric pattern options, and if you're a quilter you probably can come up with some more designs than this even. My last idea, which I'm using the two wider mounting tapes, was to make little stickers using some of the aluminum artwork. And it's a little trickier than I thought it was going to be, but this is just a little shape, hopefully you can see it, that is cut from the aluminum, and I used the alien tape on this one. I have another little piece of artwork that I'm going to cut out from the mountains that I also used the alien tape on, and I'm going to use the 3M tape to try to cut out this little margarita glass image. The 3M mounting tape is a little bit thinner, and so I think that it might be a little less problematic than the alien tape, just because it's very squishy and it's very hard to cut out a smooth edge around your item. So I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. But first I'm going to cut down my aluminum and add some of my 3M mounting tape. Just for fun, I'm going to try to do a little piece from these limes too. So I'm not sure. I think this might fit. It does end up wasting a little bit of the tape here, but and then on this piece, I'm going to have to kind of double up the mounting tape. So I'm not sure which way is going to be the least wasteful, but let's do this. All right, so I'm trying to catch, I think I got the whole edge here. So you can see that the alien tape is quite a bit thicker than the 3M tape, and I'm going to go ahead and carefully cut these out, but then I can assess if you get any cleaner of an edge with this thinner material, because I know that you already get a pretty raw edge with this thicker tape. So here's what I'm talking about. When you're cutting out these shapes, you can definitely get spots where you've kind of nicked the aluminum and it just kind of doesn't cut smoothly. This thinner tape is a little bit less rough, but you definitely don't want to leave these edges because there's a lot of burrs and kind of places where you could get caught on things. So my solution to finish the edges was to add a little bit of dimensional paint. So I'm going to use white for these shapes. I put a little black edge around my dog here. And so you don't get a perfectly smooth edge, but you can cover up a lot of those rough burrs and places where the metal might get caught on something or poke your fingers or something. So I'm just going to carefully draw around the edges. And I think on this particular piece, it's certainly a personal choice, but if you have smoother edges, you can determine whether you want to add the paint or not, but you're definitely going to want to add some to where all of these sort of nicked spots are in the metal. So when you're applying the paint, you want to make sure that you're covering all of the little burrs, but you don't want to get the paint on the back here because you want to be able to remove this plastic film so that you have a sticker when you're done. So this wider tape might be a little easier to avoid the getting it on the back, but it definitely has more kind of raw pointy edges when you're done cutting because it's a little more spongy. But they both work. You can see where I covered a little bit of the limes there. You might have to cover some of your edges and then let your paint dry before you can reach the rest of your piece. And this paint does shrink up a little bit when it dries. So this is just another way that you can use up your aluminum cans if you have a image that you like and you want to make a sticker out of it. I hope you found some inspiration here on new ways to use your aluminum cans. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.